Hey everyone, it's Wilka here. Welcome to the Leadership Talks podcast. And this is our series, Black Excellence. And I'm super happy to have Randall Snell with us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Wilka.
Yes, of course. So, Randall, I invited you because I see you are a very successful African American man, a Black man in business, and I wanted you to share your story. How did you develop your career, and when did you start, and so on? So, go on.
All right, how much time do we have? So I had a really whirlwind of events when it came to actually picking this career, and I think it was really based off faith that brought me to this. A little background about myself: I started off as an athlete, and from school I was a three-sport athlete: high school, football, basketball, and track. And so that's kind of what I always thought I was going to do. And you always have people who tell you, you need a backup plan, right? You need a backup plan. You need to do this, you need to do that. And you never, as an athlete, that's almost contradicting yourself. Like, why should I have a backup plan if I know I'm a competitor, and I know there's only a slim amount of people that can get to this place, but still, I'm a competitor, so I should be able to get to where I want to go. So end up going to college at the University of West Georgia, and I had a football scholarship out there, and so I ended up playing football there. And I remember tournament events happened, and I needed some extra money. You know how it is when you're in college, but needed some extra money, and I started working pretty early at the age of 14. And but it was one of those things where I was able to get a job, word of mouth, and was able to get on and work my way up through there. But once I got into school, I never had the idea that I was gonna work. I knew I was gonna play sports, and that was gonna be it. And so I came to that situation where I needed to work, and I had no clue how to start or what to do. So I ended up going to my career service office. And when I went to the office, I sat down with a young lady, and one of my mentors today, but she sat me down, and she kind of had a similar background to me. She was an athlete from UNLV. She ran track. And she sat me down and she said, okay, well, in order to get a job, you're going to need a resume. And I was like, what is a resume? So I went home and I typed up something that almost seemed like a research paper. And I brought it back to her, and she looked at it and just kind of balled it up in my face and threw it away. She's like, "This is not a resume," and I don't know why, but that just sparked me. It gave me a lot of just ambition to get into that field. And from there, she kind of walked me through what a resume was and how to build it up. And she gave me a couple jobs to apply to that day. And from there, I applied to 3 different jobs. I got 3 different job offers, and it just took off with just the emotion and the feeling of how I went from one place to another place. So I found myself after that, every teammate who needed to get a job, they was calling me up, "Hey, Randall, how do I work on a resume?" I'm like, "Hey, this is what you got to do, and then this is who you need to go to." So it was something that just created a passion in me. Um, and I always still thought I was going to be in sports. So even when, I left school, graduated, and went back to school to get my master's, it was in business administration. And I was actually working at the Coliseum, which is the sports arena. And so that's where my field was going to be in sports, in that sports field. And I was doing business operations. But even when I was doing business operations in that field, I saw that the students that were coming through didn't have email etiquette, didn't have their resumes done, where interview skills were terrible. So I started branching out and doing different things for them to prepare them once they leave, not to only have that experience, but also know how to network, also know how to write a resume, also know what it looks like to follow up. And so those kind of things just sparked me into the career I had now. After I finished up my graduate assistant program, I reached out to a couple of universities, and I actually had 3 different job offers on the table. I had an offer to go do data analytics at a corporation. I also had an offer to do business operations at a university, almost in the same kind of setting. And then I also had an offer to do career services. And for some reason, I was like, okay, that's the one I'm going with. So took that role, ended up moving pretty quickly throughout that role, and ended up into the place that I am now.
Wow, what a background, Randall. So from sports. So I have to ask, between the sports of football, you said, or
Yep.
football, basketball, and track, what
Uh,
was your favorite?
oh, that's a great question. I always get that question. So it's kind of it's weird though. Basketball was actually my favorite sport to play. It was one that I could just go out. I was naturally good at basketball. It was something I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed competing. But football was actually the sport that put me in a zone where I had to work. I had to challenge myself. I had to get better. And that is what I ended up sticking with just because of how much it brought out of me to continue to grow and develop. So football was the one that was the workhorse, and basketball was like the fun activity on the side.
Wow, that's awesome. I have this passion for basketball as well, and that did not quite work for me. Yeah, I'm like, I have an uncle in Brazil, and actually, he is a basketball coach and an English teacher. So his name is Marcos. Huge shout outs to my uncle because he is one of my inspirations of, learning another language and so on. But I always played in high school, but my uncle was the coach of, other teams. And I'm always like, oh my God, what do I need to do to play? He's like, you need to train every day. I was like, oh, okay, well. I guess, I have other plans for myself. I have all of this extra work, after school for the languages that I wanted to learn. But, I didn't have the natural ability of, awesome basketball players. So here I am in hospitality.
Oh, that's a great story too. That's a great story. So I got a quick question for you though. What
Yeah.
languages do you speak?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to be honest. I only speak English and Portuguese fluently,
Uh,
but I speak like on a conversation level is Spanish,
uh,
a little bit of Italian. I've been to Italy twice, and French as well. But I can't do it professionally, like the vocabulary. I need to improve my vocabulary on both. So, but I think languages, and it's like sports, right? You need discipline, you need to practice every day. You need to have that um is skill, but the ability also to be better, right? And to improve yourself. But in terms of what it stick out to me, what you said about the career path you came through after, your mentor and, writing a resume and having like paying forward also to the
mm,
students, right? Because
mm,
this is one thing that I believe it so much as well that I went to school in Brazil, and I did the same like you, I came to my career services and be like, hey, do you guys have any internships and so on? Or how can you direct me to the companies that, have had internships and are openings that I can reach out? So I think this is a very fine line
mm,
because everybody at school is doing the same thing, going to the
mm,
career services, right? But
mm.
how are you going to develop yourself to stand out of the crowd, right? Like my class, I remember was like 40 people and we had like 10 different classes in the same level. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get some internship here. But I did in my first semester, and that's a long story, but I'm here today. So how do you uh see to this day and age now, Generation Z and so on, the students that are coming to school and choosing that path, are they coming more often in person to the career service center, or they're just online sending through emails and questions and so on?
That's a great question. So I've seen, and we actually went to a presentation where someone actually broke down the different generations and how they experience work and the different things that they value from work. And I think there was a gap in between this generation, probably between the years of 2000, I say 2018 to 2020. I think those that got caught in that COVID-19 era, they really had uh, uh, more of an idea of how quick can I get to it. I want to work from home. I don't really need too much. You know, they really saw a lot of people blow up in social media during that time and started making a lot of money that way. And so going the school route or just, you know, putting in those hours for like an internship or putting in those hours just to build their craft and build their skill, I think really went by the wayside for that group. And I think a lot of it was due to, you know, seeing so many people kind of do well on social media. But I think the group that's coming after them, I definitely see a lot more of them experiencing either what their siblings went through or being able to witness what the world is kind of going through from that lens, and they're getting more involved and they're participating in a lot more events. But it did get to a point where career services saw a drop in numbers. You know, we saw a drop in students that wanted to participate to events. We saw a lot of people wanting to do more online events, which is really less engaging to some people. You know, some people are definitely in on those, but how do you actually build a connection, build a network? How do you get yourself noticed in an online setting is a lot different than, you know, being engaged and being in person. So I'd say that generation, or not generation, but that gap between the 2018 to the 2020 really didn't involve themselves as much. But after that, you got to see a lot of the numbers continue to grow.
Wow, that's amazing. And just a little bit also from your background, you know, like in terms of um getting this generation now, and this, you know, I say because I'm a millennial, right? I'm with my phone 24 hours a day. You know, God forbid my phone die and, you know, I need to take a picture, or I had an idea, I'm recording a video for LinkedIn or whatever, right? I'm obsessed, literally. But, you know, I think also this time of what come to me when you say how do you engage on an online setting,
Mhm.
and you know, social media is here and it's not going anywhere. I don't see
Mhm.
anytime soon, right? Like technology is how our world works these days.
Mhm.
And you know, I think for me as a millennial, and I didn't go to school here in the United States. I went to school in Brazil. I always had in my mind, hey, I need to connect, but I need to be telling people also, hey, today I got a job. I'm in New York City. Hey, today I got a job. I'm in California. Hey, I'm thinking about going to Chicago. Do I know anyone that knows somebody that is in Chicago or has a position in Miami? You know, so I'm always like, who could help me? And being this uh humble, right? Because you need to be humble and have a poker face to be like, hey, do you know anybody that has maybe an internship and a position, you know, in New York? I'm just, you know, interested in learning and living in New York City. So do you think that today, you know, for the engagement of the students
Mhm.
in the social media platform also has increased with, you know, the major in school that they're studying?
Yeah, I definitely do. So I think we saw a rise in entrepreneurship. We saw, you know, schools adding that as a path for them to go into. You saw more personal branding becoming more of a course that students would like to enroll in, and you saw the numbers increase on that end. And you saw more of them take time to actually try to figure out what was going on behind the scenes, because I think a lot of times when we see, like you said, the being humble about it and going about finding different avenues and just maybe volunteering your time, you don't really see that on the back end when you just get the end result from a social media post, right? You just see the glam. You don't see all the work that they put in on the back end. And hey, look, I called all these people. I put myself out there this many times. I had to redo this video so many times. So I think now you are seeing a lot of students really seeing that and saying, okay, well, I see it's a lot more work. Let me figure out what I need to start doing. So I think that has started increasing on that end. Did I answer that?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
of course. And also what that makes me think is, you know, the generation is being creative. And I like what you said, you know, like behind the cameras, right? Behind of the glamour. And I love, because this is one thing I was talking to a colleague the other day. and they said, Wilka, looks like you're having fun. I'm like, of course it looks like I'm having fun all the time. Do you think I'm going to be posting videos when I'm having a terrible day, or, that I have, a challenge day, on my travels? Yes, I got stuck in Brazil because I got COVID when I went to see my family. So I couldn't come back to the United States. So I'm like, I'm not going to be posting stuff that are not um really negative things, like, because people need to see the positive. And I think we saw right from 2020 and during the pandemic enough. So my approach is always like, hey, I'm going to post something positive, upbeat. But this is for, if you're in college, right? If you're in hospitality, if you are in sports, whatever business, it's your business, right?
Mhm.
You want to show that you are out there, you're networking, you're positive, you are engaging with people that wanted to connect with you, and also target, right? So like you have to be laser focused on those companies that are that are hiring or have open positions for you.
Mhm.
That you might engage with the director or the associate director from that career services, right, Randall?
There you go.
But like now, from your approach, the Black Excellence is a feature on a new series on the episode. Do you see that today, the Black students and, youngsters coming into the workforce are more knowledgeable of entering the workforce and owning their own skin? And it's okay, understanding that it's okay and you have a space in here. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I was actually just thinking about this. That's a great question. But yeah, I think it definitely has created more of an environment. And I want to say this a lot of this comes from the advocates that always preach, equality. And now we're getting to witness a lot of the things that are showing up to be able to be in those environments. And I think a big issue that used to I guess cause that kind of discrimination would be the fact that they just didn't understand. People really just didn't understand other groups, right? They didn't understand or trust other groups, and they were comfortable with themselves. So being able to be integrated with other people, and I think Remember the Titans is one of my favorite movies, but it kind of reminded me of that, especially with myself going to a university that was a predominantly white university, working at a predominantly white, and then actually going and working at a predominantly black institute. I was able to see the changes. But for me, it's always been, as an athlete, whoever is coming to work, they coming to work with me. That's who I'm ready to roll with. And so I got to, meet a lot of guys, good and bad, from all different areas. And I think that has merged into the workforce as well. And you're starting to see more people are accepting, like, hey, okay, well, you may dress like this, you may look like this, but that doesn't have anything to do with your work ethic. That doesn't have anything to do with the teamwork ability. That doesn't have anything to do with how much effort you're going to put in. And I think with that, with more people with that open mindedness and being able to relay that to their peers and their different groups, it has created that to where now those students are able to embrace it. They're able to go in all kind of different styles and still be able to work and grow with majority of groups.
Yeah, excellent. And I think for like before we started the recording, I mentioned to you, I'm gonna have this series, right, Black Excellence, throughout the year, as long as I want to have, not just this February, because I think I've worked with so many different groups and diverse ethnicities that we need to bring it up and have conversations, because people might see a Latina talking, they might be inspired, or they
Mhm.
see a successful person in the academia like yourself, Randall, and they may be like, well, if he could do that, I can see myself as well. So it turned out to be an example, for people that look like us. And I think diversity is here to stay, and all of this inclusion, the conversations on the workplace, on social media, everywhere, it's part of our lives. I think people need to be open to the unknown, right? Like if you haven't been part of a different culture, that's what global international education it's all about, right? But also there's other venues that you can be integrated with, the world that is out there. Like you said, you had gentlemen that you worked with in the sports that were diverse, they were good, they were bad, it didn't look like they were there to do the job, and you work as a team player, literally, right, in your case. But any other thoughts, Randall, like suggestions, actually, because I want to be respectful of your time. What would you say to the new generation of young, professionals coming out on the workforce?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, and I've been anxious to get that out. But for the new generation, I would say the main thing that, well, a few things that you should do. The first thing is I would always seek answers, right? Always ask questions. Find people that are in the industry that you're looking to get into, and just pick their brain. Sit down, talk to them. What are some things that you all witnessed? What are some things that you all went through? It'll save you a lot of time. I think, especially with this generation, there's a lot of information that's, especially on social media, that's out there, and it almost makes it seem like they're coming in with the knowledge that I know what's going on, I already know everything, and getting humble, like you said earlier, and just being able to ask that question and say, hey, I need advice, I need help. I think that's one of the biggest things that I would say that they would do. And then secondly, I would network. Be sure that you're out there networking with as many people as you can, like this, like, just reaching out, talking to people. I really appreciated that. And, just reaching out and with your peers, not only your peers, group projects that you're doing, any way that you can get around people that are moving in a good direction, that you can see that are showing good work ethic and showing that they are, you know, uh, eager to get involved with. And it doesn't really matter what field, just being surrounded by individuals with a purpose, I think is good for all students. And then lastly, I would say just continue to just get out there, try, experience things. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is, one of your best friends. You learn from failure. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We always look at failure because, in school you used to go through and you get that big red F on your paper circled, and they make it seem so bad, but it's actually pretty, good to learn from when you fail. And so I would embrace it.
Wow, that's amazing. This is one thing that actually, before when I came, failure, it's like, well, if this doesn't work, I can always go back to Brazil. I have a home, I have a family, I can, if I try and try and I try, it doesn't work, I can just fly back home. But guess what? Failure is never an option. You always wanted to succeed, right? And when it does, because life will, of course, it's not every move that you make, or either personally or career wise, it's going to be a successful move. You're going to fail, and I'm very proud. I've failed many times,
Mhm.
maybe I'm still making decisions that are not, considered smart enough, but I'm like, hey, like I just got a puppy, I told you.
Exactly.
I had my neighbor saying, well, do you have time for a dog? Because he watches how much I travel, right? But I'm like, I will make time.
Right. Mhm.
I will make time for things that I love, for things that I care about. And, thank you very much. Like I'm making time this morning on a Saturday to
Hey,
be here talking to me on the Leadership Talks podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time of the day for this.
oh yeah, no worries. I was happy to get on. I was anxious to get some time settled out for us, and I really appreciate you, reaching out and honoring me to be on this podcast. I see you doing some big things. Continue to do some great things.
Oh, Randall, I'm just, a Latina woman that immigrated here in the United States a few years back. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And how can people get in contact with you, Randall?
Sure. So you can follow me on LinkedIn at Randall Snell, LinkedIn, Randall Snell. You can just type that in, follow me there. I'm getting into the social media on Instagram, so I'm not going to give it out yet, but If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll eventually see that, and you can contact me there. Ask me any questions that you have, especially any young professionals looking for any advice. Y'all definitely reach out to me.
Fantastic. And thank you everyone for listening. This is the Leadership Talks podcast, Black Excellence series. Have a wonderful day.